Hello, my name's Jeff Raffauf, and I'm one of the pastors at West Lawn United Methodist Church in Reading, Pennsylvania. It's been my privilege recently to share in these devotional videos along with the Reverend Chris Hardy as we've been talking about that collection of teachings from Jesus, that classic collection that have been put together in Matthew's Gospel in chapters 5, 6, and 7, which we refer to as the Sermon on the Mount. It begins with the happy are or blessed are statements, which at least on the surface seem so hard to argue with, maybe hard to understand. Blessed are those who mourn or who are meek, but when we dig down deep, we discover that they bring some real meaning to our quest for fulfillment and fullness of life. Then we got into salt and light and a life verse of mine and the fulfillment of the law. Jesus did not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill it. We read about the suggestions that Jesus makes regarding murder and other things, other sins. When we do them or foster them or embrace them in our mind, it's the same as if we do them ourselves. And so if you haven't seen it coming yet, Jesus is just getting more challenging in his readings or his teaching to us. And so we read from Matthew's Gospel, just two verses, Matthew 5, 31 and 32. And he talks about divorce. He says, "It was said, whoever divorces his wife must give her a divorce certificate. But I say to you that whoever divorces his wife, except for sexual unfaithfulness, forces her to commit adultery. And whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery." Now, right off the bat, let me just acknowledge that these words may come as offensive to every person who's ever been divorced. And I apologize to a degree for that. But as I often say, Jesus' words are challenging and, quite honestly, offensive to the status quo and to our American way of thinking about things. And so we need to wrestle with that. But we also, I would suggest, need to understand marriage among the Jewish culture in the days of Jesus. There were essentially two competing philosophies or schools of thought among the rabbis and therefore among the Jewish people. They had, imagine this, a liberal component and a conservative component. You had some on the left and some on the right. Now, this is not to say this is in any way equal to the battles and the confrontations that we are experiencing in our society today. I'm not saying this is pro-Democrat, pro-Republican, red state, blue state, none of that. Get over it. But there was a conservative school of thought about marriage and a liberal school of thought about marriage. And in the conservative school of thought, there was nothing except sexual infidelity, sexual unfaithfulness, as it says in the Common English Bible. Some refer to it as unchaste. Others refer to it as indecent behavior. It all depends on the translation. But there was one school of thought, a conservative school of thought, that said, except for such indecent or unchaste or unfaithful behavior, there is no excuse for divorce. The other school of thought was to really lower the bar, if you will. It was to say that a man could give a divorce or get a divorce for almost any reason, that would seem in his mind justifiable. It's not a stretch of the imagination to think that a man could divorce his wife because he didn't think she ran the household well, or because, as William Barclay likes to point out in his daily Bible study devotion commentaries, he says, even if a woman were to ruin her husband's meal with too much salt, he could present her with a certificate of divorce. Indeed, to divorce a woman, a man only needed to present a certificate of divorce, which in itself is ironic because women were discouraged from learning to read and write. So I don't know how they read the certificate of divorce, but they were presented with a certificate of divorce in front of the witness of two men. So a man and two of his buddies can write up a certificate of divorce and present it to his wife, and that's it. They're divorced. What about a woman? Well, they didn't have those options. There are almost no circumstances under which a woman can seek a divorce and get it unless the man also agrees. And so women were truly treated as lesser beings. They were treated as things, as objects, as possessions. And so it's hard for us to really imagine how these teachings affect us or should be applied in our lives. But let me suggest this, that what Jesus is really referring to is the brokenness in all of our lives, whether it's divorce or whatever sin it may be. I do believe, I'm going to offend a lot of people here, but I do believe that divorce is always a sin. Even under the most justifiable conditions, abuse or whatever the case may be, it's a covenant made between two people, hopefully with God as the third partner. And whenever we break a covenant with one another or with God, it's a sin. And so I believe when we break a covenant, we break God's heart. And we do damage to our relationship with our Creator, Redeemer, and Sustainer. That said, there is life beyond divorce. There is life beyond our sin. So we need to understand. We need to understand that Jesus is the Redeemer, the one who forgives us of our sin, the one who promises us abundant life in this world and life everlasting in the world to come. If you remember the episode in which Jesus is confronted in the temple by men who drag a woman claiming she was caught in adultery, what does Jesus say to her at the end? Go and sin no more. Now, a lot of things have been made about that statement, but I do believe he's giving her another opportunity. What does Jesus say to one of the thieves on the cross? He says, today you will be with me in paradise. Friends, I believe the good news is just that. For whatever our brokenness may be, whatever covenants we may have broken, whatever sins we may have committed, whatever mistakes we've endured or brought on ourselves, Jesus offers us good news. And the good news is forgiveness of sins, abundant life in this world, and life everlasting. Let's just try for this week to live our lives in a different way, not answering to the whims or the mores of our culture. But imagine if we could, just for a day or a week, live like Jesus. I think it would be a different life for us. And I think it would create a different world. Friends, whether it's on divorce or whatever Jesus may be teaching, I pray that God blesses you in your reading of his word and in your journey as you seek to follow Jesus. Thanks for tuning in today. Thanks for listening to me. And may God be with you until we meet again.